As I said, I'm Matt Jacobs. I'm the director of the Bob Graham Center for Public Service. I've also been the person overseeing our research initiatives for the last several years. Uh, Dr. Cornacione, our civic engagement coordinator, is also on the call and will be ultimately overseeing the research initiatives next year. Reed, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Reed Jeffries. I'm Dr. J's special projects assistant, and I'm the student assistant who helps oversee the Askew and Haskell research programs at the Bob Graham Center. I'm also a former Askew scholar myself, and my project was on small campaign contributions and their interaction between age, and gender in politics and U.S. politics.
And Aaron?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Aaron Ali McClory. I'm an undergraduate political science and anthropology student here at UF, and I'm in the current cohort of Askew Scholars, and I'll be talking about my project later in the presentation.
Thank you, everyone. So who are we? Who is the Bob Graham Center for Public Service? We were founded by former Florida governor and U.S. Senator and Gator alum Bob Graham in 2006 for the purpose of engaging the community in the principles of citizenship and teaching an effective civic engagement, public service, and public leadership. We do that in a lot of different ways. We have an academic major, the international studies major, and a minor, the public service minor. We also offer a wide range of classes, and I know some of you will be viewing this as participants in some of our classes. We also sponsor 5 student organizations. We have 3 undergraduate research initiatives, 2 of which we'll be talking about here today. We sponsor the Washington Internship Program, the Tallahassee Internship Program, the local Civigators Municipal Government Internship. And then we're also the primary facilitator of UF's voter engagement initiatives and work with students from any academic pathway, pursuing any career pathway, as long as you're interested in those principles of civic engagement, public service, public leadership. We are nonpartisan, so we really want anyone who's interested in those ideals to be able to find their intellectual home here in Pugh Hall as long as they walk through that front door, okay? So we're going to talk now a little bit about the Askew and Haskell Scholars. There are 2 programs here. They work in parallel with each other. We're looking to put together a cohort of undergraduate researchers who are selected for their commitment to public service in either the domestic realm for the Askew Scholars or the international realm for the Haskell Scholars. So as you work on your proposals, the Askews will be focusing on domestic issues, Haskells will be focusing on international issues. Scholars do receive $2,000 dispersed over the 2 semesters to support the research. Those are done as disbursements through Student Financial Services as scholarship disbursements. And we can talk more about that with each of you individually as you get into the cohort and so on. You'll work with faculty mentors to help support your project. Hopefully you've got people in mind that you can work with, but if not, we can also help you identify appropriate mentors. Those mentors will also receive some financial support from the center for professional development needs. And again, it's helpful if you have mentors identified or potential mentors identified, but that is not a requirement for the application. We can help you identify mentors after the fact if necessary. Ideally, you'll end up working through several different aspects of the program. So we want you to actively engage and participate in regularly scheduled cohort meetings with your fellow scholars. So there will be approximately 5 or 6 of those during the course of the academic year, 3 in the fall, and then either 2 or 3 in the spring semester next year. We also want you to engage in other components of the life of the center, so attending some of our public programs perhaps, or our career-focused talks, or other initiatives that we might be working with. We will ask you at the midpoint, so at the end of the first semester or start of the second semester, to submit a 2-page memo summarizing the work you've completed to that point. So it's kind of a midpoint check-in, if you will. Obviously, we want you to complete your research project. Ideally, we'd like you to be able to present that research or to seek opportunities for publishing it, and we'll provide some guidance on how to do that during the course of the academic year. Indeed, one of those cohort meetings will focus on publishing and presentation opportunities. And again, ideally, we want these to be publicly disseminated at the end. So again, that can take a variety of forms. We ourselves host an annual research symposium. And again, there can be other avenues where that might take place. We've had students, I think Reed already mentioned, she published in the Journal of Undergraduate Research. We've had students attend conferences, the Midwest Political Science Association conference in Chicago a couple of times. Others presented at other conferences. So again, those research funds can help support that, and we want to help you get your research out there. So that's a quick overview of the program itself. Aaron, would you like to spend a few minutes talking about your project and what your experience has been?
Absolutely, Dr. J. Thank you so much. So my project is currently working on, as it says there, documenting the history of the student activist movement here at the University of Florida, particularly looking at the relationships between institutions on campus and the continuity of the movement between generations of student organizers on campus. This project was started through the Discovery Fellows program in the Smathers Libraries, their special collections, and it's been a lot of archival research. The Askew program enabled me to continue this research in a more serious way and also work on ways to start getting this research and what I've been finding through the archives out into the public. So I want to touch on a couple of the ways that the Askew Scholars Program has helped my project. First, of course, the stipend has been very helpful. I'm going to be using part of that stipend to travel to the Society of Florida Archivists conference in May, where I'll be presenting jointly with my mentor, Sarah Coates, the University Archivist, on both the research methodology and what I've found through my project. In addition to that, I'm also hosting a talk through the Smathers Libraries that'll additionally help kind of publicize this research, as Dr. J was talking about a little bit ago. I also want to talk about some of the programs that the Askew Scholars kind of cohort has provided me with. That's included some of these sessions and in meetings early in the fall, where we learned about different research methods. We learned about ways to publicize our research. So there was one that was talking about conferences and how to present research. The different ways that, this research can kind of go from just a paper to, talking to people about it and really spreading it around. And those were really helpful in helping me kind of realize my project from something that was kind of nebulous, kind of very paper-based, into something that will help reach a lot more people. Um, so this project is very comprehensive, it's very big. And so being in the Askew Scholars cohort has really helped me dedicate an appropriate amount of time to not just doing research in the archives, but also thinking about ways to reach people with it. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about my project and specifically how the Askew Scholars cohort has helped me with it. I do kind of want to note like the interdisciplinary nature of the project. It focuses a lot on kind of like the civic engagement and political engagement of students here at UF. And it touches on not just historical disciplines, but also political science and also some anthropological aspects. And so, the projects that you can kind of take on through the program can be interdisciplinary, of course, relating back to domestic or international politics with respect to the Haskell Scholarship. But yeah, it's been a really exciting opportunity, and it's really helped me grow and develop as a researcher, especially as I prepare to move on to grad school.
Great, thank you, Aaron. And let me ask you one quick question. So we were talking a week or so ago about your project, and can you share something that you found that was really surprising to you? We talked about a particular aspect of your project where you were really surprised how openly the upper leadership talked about some issues, and one of those was pretty striking to you. So can you just share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, the nature of my project is very archival. So I'm working through the special collections in the Smathers libraries, particularly the university archives, and part of that is the presidential papers. And I found it very interesting that in these presidential papers, which are very much just archives moved from administration into the libraries, a lot of these administrators, up to and including past university presidents, have talked very openly about like student protests and student activists on campus. I think particularly if I remember Dr. J, what I pointed out to you was the presence of the FBI on campus during the 60s, during the big anti-war protests and Black Power protests here at UF. The FBI actually was set up in a house across from the main house where Students for Democratic Society, one of the main organizations, was organizing out of. And so things like that are really interesting that I found through this project. And I honestly wouldn't have been able to find out things like that without the support of the Askew program.
Thanks. Yeah, that was a really interesting conversation that we had about that experiences and your reactions to it as you were finding that out. And so that's just one example of the types of research that students can do. We've had students do a range of work, some doing more data heavy work, others more kind of qualitative in nature or archival in nature. And we work with students in any discipline too. So we've had students from engineering to class to CALS. One of our current scholars is finishing up a project on algal blooms and Floridians' responses and understanding of algal blooms. Again, we work with students across the range of disciplines here at UF. Let me continue here. So what are the components of the application? So there's going to be four main components. There will be a Qualtrics that you fill out that gathers basic information from you. But there's four main components of materials that you need to be able to gather or start collecting. The first is a 300-word statement of purpose outlining how you will draw value from the scholarship and contribute to the Bob Graham Center for Public Service. 300 words is, think of that as basically one double-spaced page, so a couple of paragraphs basically where you're talking through what you're looking to get out of your engagement through this program. The second piece is the project you want to work on. And so a 500-word proposal, again, think about that as basically two double-spaced pages where you're identifying the issue, again, for Askew Scholars, the domestic issue, for Haskell Scholars, the international issue, that you're going to try to research, who your intended audience is for that, and the intended outcome. So not everyone will necessarily do a project that leads to a paper. So for example, we worked a couple of years ago with an Askew scholar whose finished product, the deliverable, if you will, was an art exhibit. We've worked with others who are working on other types of projects. We had one who was a series of posters about different case studies looking at diabetes research in children. There's a lot of different ways and forms these projects can go. So we want you to be thinking up front about what do you think that intended outcome or deliverable will look like in your case. So again, that's a relatively short statement, but defining the research and the issue that you want to look at, and then how you see that playing out for you. A one-page resume, partly that is so that we have it on file so that if we need anything from you, we don't have to come back and ask later. It just facilitates things on our end so that we can help publicize your work, publicize your you as an individual, and also help connect you with other opportunities that we might become aware of. And then finally, we do require a letter of recommendation here. It does not need to be a lengthy discussion of all of your past experiences with a faculty member, but we would like a 2 to 3 paragraph letter of support, hopefully from a prospective mentor, but again, that's not a requirement, indicating why they think that you can effectively complete the project, okay? So those are the components of what you need to actually put together in advance. The faculty member can submit their letter directly to us. And again, there'll be an email where they can submit that that you can share with them. They can also give it to you if you wish or they wish, and you can upload it directly into the application as well. Either of those is acceptable to us. So that's what the application will look like. And then what are we looking for as we're evaluating the applications? First of all, we want projects that are feasible. Sometimes students submit proposals where we think, well, look, that's actually kind of a 2 or 3 year graduate master's thesis or dissertation that's not really feasible for an undergraduate to complete in a year, right? So think about it in that context. What can you reasonably accomplish in a year? Another thing that we're looking for under feasible is, do you have the skill sets or access to materials necessary to do the project that you're laying out. So if you want to do a project that is going to require, let's say for the Haskell, which is internationally focused, language skills, right? So if you're looking at trying to do work on a region or on an issue that requires you to have language skills, do you possess those language skills? If so, make that clear to us. Feasible may also be, do you have technical skills, like if you want to do a data heavy project, do you have the skills necessary to do that? Or are you equipped to use R or Python or Stata or whatever else you might need to use for that? We also want to think about feasibility in the context of, does your kind of the disciplinary approach and the experience that you have set you up well for success? Because we want you to succeed in this first and foremost. And so we're looking at, are you equipped to succeed in that, right? We do want you to ultimately have a mentor. The mentor is there to help you. Many students come in with a mentor previously identified, but not all do. And if you do not have one identified, that is okay. We can help you do that. We have a lot of connections. I would say out of this year's current crop of 10-ish Askews, I think there were 2 or 3 that we helped identify a mentor after they'd been accepted to the program. So it's not a requirement to get into the program, but obviously it's helpful. And then also we are interdisciplinary. So we're not just looking to fund people and projects from a single discipline. We want to see applications from the broad range of disciplines that are where students are thinking in the context of civic engagement, public service, and public leadership. So don't worry that because you might come from what you might consider a non-traditional discipline in a public policy space or public leadership or service space, that means that you won't be considered. Indeed, you will be. And we've worked with engineering students, we've worked with Cal students, we've worked with folks in, again, the traditional sciences versus the traditional humanities and all across the board. People in College of the Arts to people in design, construction, and planning. So we're interested in projects that demonstrate engagement in civic engagement, public service, public leadership. And again, that are feasible, that we think students can bring to fruition and where they can benefit from their work and connections with the center. So those are the things that we're looking for when we are evaluating the applications. The timeline. So applications close on Friday, March 14th. Obviously, that's a Friday right before spring break. Faculty will also obviously be on spring break. We will do the review the week after spring break and notify applicants no later than March 31st. And that is all applicants. You will hear from us regardless of whether your application is accepted or not. We're not going to leave anybody hanging and wondering what their status is, and that will occur no later than March 31st. For those students who are accepted, you will receive formal notification, including a letter that we will ask you to review and sign ultimately, which states your commitment to participate fully in the program. And then once we have all of those back, we will schedule an orientation session, to take place in mid-April with all the accepted scholars and hopefully with your mentors as well, to the extent that that is possible, although that might not be fully possible to get all of those on there. So that's a quick overview of the program, the deadlines, what we're looking for in applications. You've heard from a student, a current Askew Scholar, about their project and what they've taken from it. You can see here at the bottom that you can reach out to Reed Jeffries at grahamcenter@ufl.edu, and we will address any questions that way. And then you may also stay in touch with the Bob Graham Center. This QR code will help you sign up for our newsletter. The newsletter comes out every Wednesday during the academic year, typically every other Wednesday during the summer. I'm going to stop sharing now. And that will be accessible to you, and that will show you all of the opportunities. Students find the newsletter quite helpful, whether they're looking for research initiatives, internships, public programs, interesting classes, or other opportunities that are out there. So thank you for viewing this. We do apologize for having to switch to a fully recorded approach here, but this link will be sent out, and hopefully you apply and you find the program interesting. Thank you.